The forest had always been quiet, but that winter it felt heavier than usual. The trees stood tall and bare, their branches cracking softly when the cold wind passed through them. Snow covered the ground like a thick blanket, hiding both danger and hope beneath it. Every step taken in that forest needed care, because one wrong move could mean injury or worse. The hunter walked slowly between the trees, his boots worn thin from years of use. He carried an old rifle on his shoulder and a small bag that held little more than dried food and a knife. His face showed signs of a hard life, marked by sun, wind, and worry. Hunting was not just his work. It was the only way he survived. Some days he returned with meat. Other days he returned with nothing but cold hands and tired bones. He had lost many things in his life, though he rarely spoke of them. A small house once filled with warmth now stood empty. People who once laughed with him were gone, carried away by time and hardship. What remained was routine. Wake before dawn, walk into the forest, hunt, return, sleep, repeat. There was no room for dreams anymore, only survival. That morning the hunter followed tracks in the snow. They were faint and uneven, not the clean marks of an animal. He stopped and looked closer. The tracks were small, human, a child's tracks. He felt his chest tighten. Children did not belong in this forest, especially not in winter. He slowly followed the trail, his breath visible in the cold air. The deeper he went, the quieter everything became. Even the birds seemed to have gone silent. After several minutes, he saw something ahead near a fallen tree. At first he thought it was a bundle of cloth. Then it moved. A small girl sat there, her knees pulled close to her chest. Her clothes were thin and dirty, clearly not made for the cold. Her hair was tangled, and her face was pale. When she noticed the hunter, she flinched and tried to stand, but her legs shook. She fell back into the snow. The hunter froze. He had faced wild animals before, but this was different. This was fragile. This was fear in its purest form. He slowly lowered his rifle and stepped closer. He spoke softly, careful not to scare her.
"Hey."
"It's okay. I won't hurt you." The girl did not reply. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear and exhaustion. She hugged herself tighter, as if trying to disappear. The hunter noticed her hands were blue from the cold. His heart sank. She had been out here far too long. "Where are your parents?" he asked gently. She shook her head. "Do you live nearby?" Again, she shook her head. Tears began to roll down her cheeks, freezing as they touched her skin. That was enough. The hunter removed his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. She resisted at first, but the warmth was too tempting. Slowly, she relaxed, though her eyes never left his face. He picked her up carefully. She was light, far too light for a child her age. That told him everything he needed to know. They walked back toward his small cabin at the edge of the forest. It wasn't much, just one room with a stove and a wooden bed, but it was warm. As he set her down near the fire, the girl looked around as if she had never seen safety before. He gave her some water and a piece of bread. She ate slowly at first, then faster, unable to hide her hunger. The hunter watched quietly, a strange feeling rising in his chest. He had not shared a meal with anyone in years. When she finished, she looked up at him and whispered, "Thank you." Her voice was weak, but clear. Hearing it made his throat tighten. He asked her name, but she only shook her head. Either she didn't want to say it, or she truly didn't have one she trusted. That night, the hunter barely slept. The girl rested on his bed while he sat near the fire, staring at the flames. Questions filled his mind. Where had she come from? Why was she alone? Who would leave a child in the forest? The next morning, he decided to take her to the nearby town. Someone there would know what to do. Someone with more resources. He packed what little he had and held her hand as they walked. The town was small, but busy. People stared when they saw the hunter and the girl. Some looked curious. Others looked suspicious. The hunter felt uncomfortable, but he ignored it. He asked around about shelters and help for children. Most people shrugged or avoided him. A few pointed him toward an old building near the edge of town. As they walked, a man standing near a shop watched them closely. Then another. The hunter noticed, but kept moving. Inside the old building, they found little help. No open beds. No food. No answers. The hunter felt frustration rising. He had done the right thing by bringing her here, hadn't he? As they stepped back outside, the man from earlier approached. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You seem lost," the man said. "That child with you? Is she yours?" The hunter tightened his grip on the girl's hand. "No, I found her alone." The man nodded slowly. "That's unfortunate. Children like her often cause trouble." Hunter felt something dark in the man's tone. He turned to leave. But the man continued speaking. "There are people who would pay a lot to take responsibility off your hands." The words hit the hunter like a punch. He stopped walking. "How much?" the man asked casually, as if talking about buying livestock. The hunter's mind raced. Anger, fear, and confusion swirled together. He looked down at the girl. She was staring at the ground. Unaware of the meaning behind the words, the hunter said nothing and walked away, his heart pounding. That night, back in the cabin, the girl sat close to the fire. She looked up at him with quiet trust. "Are you leaving me?" she asked softly. The hunter swallowed hard. "No," he replied, "I won't leave you." But deep inside, he knew his life had already changed forever, and the road ahead would not be simple. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, as if warning them both that darker days were coming. The next morning came too quickly. The hunter woke before the sun, the cold still hanging in the air. For a moment, he forgot there was someone else in the cabin. Then he heard a small cough near the fire. The girl was awake, sitting quietly with the blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She looked at him with the same careful eyes as before, as if still deciding whether the world was safe. He stood up slowly and poured some water into a metal cup. "You hungry?" he asked. She nodded. He heated the last of his soup and shared it with her. As they ate, he noticed how she watched every movement he made. Not fear this time, but curiosity, like she was trying to understand who he was. After they finished, he sat across from her. "We can't stay here long," he said gently. "People in town will talk. Someone might help you. Maybe find a place for you." Her face changed. She hugged the blanket tighter. "I don't want to go," she whispered. He felt a tight pull in his chest. "I know," he replied, "but this place isn't safe for a child." She didn't argue. She just nodded slowly, as if she had learned long ago that her wishes rarely mattered. They walked to town again later that day. The hunter kept his head low, but his eyes stayed alert. He felt watched. Every sound felt louder than usual. The girl stayed close to him, holding the edge of his coat. Near the market, they stopped to rest. People moved around them, buying food, laughing, living normal lives. The hunter felt like an outsider. Then he heard a familiar voice. "You came back." He turned and saw the same man from the day before. The man was leaning against a wall, smiling like this was a friendly meeting. "I told you," the man continued. "There are ways to solve your problem." The hunter didn't respond. He took the girl's hand and tried to walk away. The man followed. "You look tired, poor, hungry. That child will only make things harder." The hunter stopped. His jaw tightened. "Leave us alone." The man raised his hands. "I'm only offering help. 50,000. That's more money than you'll see in a lifetime." The hunter felt dizzy. The number echoed in his head. 50,000. That kind of money could change everything. "Fix the cabin, Island. Never worry about food again." But then he looked down at the girl. She was shaking. "I don't want to go," she whispered again. The man leaned closer. "Think carefully. Someone else will take her if you don't." That sentence stayed with the hunter long after he walked away. That night, back in the cabin, the hunter couldn't sleep. The girl lay quietly, pretending to rest. He could tell she was awake. "Are you scared?" he asked softly. She nodded. "People always want something." Her words cut deep. She was too young to understand the world this way. He stared at the ceiling. He knew one thing for sure. The man in town was dangerous. And if he was watching them, others might be too. The next few days were tense. Each time they went into town for food or supplies, someone seemed to be watching. A man standing too still. A woman asking too many questions. The hunter's instincts screamed that they were not alone anymore. One evening, as they returned to the cabin, the girl tripped and fell. He helped her up and noticed a small mark on her arm. An old one. Faded but clear. He felt a cold anger rise inside him. Someone had hurt her before. Someone had treated her like she didn't matter. That night, he made a decision. The next day, he went into town alone. He left the girl at the cabin with food and locked the door carefully. "Don't open it for anyone," he said. "No matter what." She looked at him with wide eyes. "You're coming back?" "I promise," he said. In town, he found the man waiting near the same shop. "You thought about my offer?" the man asked. The hunter nodded slowly. "I have." The man's smile widened. "Good, then you understand this is best for everyone." They spoke quietly. The man explained details, locations, timing. He talked like it was business, like nothing human was involved. The hunter listened, keeping his face calm, though his heart was pounding. "How do I know this is real?" the hunter asked. The man laughed. "You'll get the money when the deal is done." The hunter nodded again. "I'll bring her tomorrow." As he turned to leave, the man added, "Don't try anything clever." The walk back to the cabin felt longer than ever. Each step felt heavy. When he arrived, the girl ran to him. "You're back," she said, relief clear in her voice. He knelt in front of her. "Listen to me," he said softly. "Tomorrow, some people may come. You stay close to me. Do exactly what I say." Her face turned pale. "Are you giving me away?" His throat tightened. "No," he said firmly. "I'm protecting you." She searched his face, trying to find the truth. Finally, she nodded. That night, the hunter packed his things. He barely slept. Outside, the forest felt different, quieter, like it was holding its breath. The next day would change everything. And no matter how it looked to the world, the hunter knew he was walking into danger for one reason only: to keep a promise he never planned to make. Morning arrived under a gray sky. The forest looked calm, but the hunter felt the storm inside him. He moved quietly around the cabin, checking the door, the windows, the path outside. Everything looked the same, yet nothing felt normal anymore. The girl sat on the bed, her feet not touching the floor. She watched him closely. She did not cry. That worried him more than tears would have. He handed her a piece of bread. "Eat," he said. "We'll be walking for a bit." She took it but barely touched it. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To town," he replied. "Just for a little while." "Shh." She nodded, though her eyes were filled with questions she did not ask. They left the cabin together. The hunter locked the door and stood there for a second longer than usual. That small place had never felt like much, but now it felt like the last safe corner of the world. The walk to town was quiet. The snow crunched under their feet. The girl stayed close, holding his coat with both hands. Every now and then, she looked up at him, as if checking whether he was still there. When they reached the edge of town, the hunter slowed down. He scanned the streets. Too many unfamiliar faces, too many eyes that lingered. They reached the meeting place near an old storage building. The man was already there, standing beside a dark vehicle. Two others waited nearby, silent and expressionless. The hunter's heart pounded, but his face remained calm. "You're on time," the man said. "That's good." The girl tightened her grip. "I don't like this," she whispered. The hunter leaned down. "Remember what I told you," he said quietly. "Stay close." The man glanced at the girl and smiled thinly. "She looks healthy," he said. "That helps." The hunter felt anger flare, but he held it back. He nodded once. The man opened the back of the vehicle slightly, then closed it again. "Once everything is done," he said, "you'll get what was promised." The hunter took a slow breath. "I want to see proof." The man laughed softly and showed him a brief look inside a bag. The hunter saw more money than he had ever imagined. His stomach turned. Before anything else could happen, the hunter spoke again. "One condition?" The man raised an eyebrow. "You're not in a position to make demands?" "She walks in freely," the hunter said. "No force." The man studied him for a moment, then shrugged. "Fine." As the man turned away to speak to the others, the hunter gently squeezed the girl's hand. "Now," he whispered, "she did exactly what he had taught her. She stayed close. She stayed quiet." Suddenly, voices filled the street. "Stop right there." The man froze. The others spun around. From both ends of the road, people rushed in. Some wore plain clothes, others clearly did not. Everything happened fast. The hunter stepped back, pulling the girl behind him. His body moved on instinct, shielding her. The man shouted something, but his words were drowned out. Hands grabbed him. The others tried to run, but were stopped. The girl clung to the hunter, shaking. "What's happening?" she cried. "It's okay," he said firmly. "You're safe." The scene was loud and confusing. Hunter felt hands on his arms too, but they were careful. Finally, someone asked him questions. He answered calmly. Within minutes, it was over. The street was quiet again, but everything felt different. The man who had made the offer sat on the ground, his head lowered, his hands restrained. The others were taken away. The hunter felt his legs weaken. He sat down, still holding the girl. She looked up at him, tears running down her face. "You didn't give me away," she said. "No," he replied. "Never." Later, they were taken to a nearby building. The girl was given warm food and a blanket. The hunter sat across the room, exhausted. Someone spoke to him for a long time, asking questions about how he found the girl, what he had been told, what he had planned. He told the truth. He expected anger, accusations. Instead, there was silence. Then a nod. "You did the right thing," a voice said. Those words hit him harder than he expected. He hadn't heard them directed at him in a long time. The girl was brought back to him. She ran straight into his arms, holding on tightly. "I knew you wouldn't leave me," she said. The hunter closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to breathe freely. As the day passed, people came and went. Papers were signed. Plans were discussed. The hunter felt lost in it all. Eventually, they were told they could leave for the day. Outside, the sky had cleared. The sun reflected off the snow, almost blinding. They walked back toward the forest together. The girl talked. More now, small comments about the sky, the cold, the sound of her boots. Each word felt like a gift. When they reached the cabin, the hunter unlocked the door. The familiar smell of wood and smoke greeted them that night. The girl fell asleep quickly. The hunter sat by the fire again, just like the first night. But this time, his thoughts were different. The world would talk. People would judge. Some would never understand what he had done. But he knew the truth. And for the first time in a very long while, he felt hope quietly settle into his tired heart. Morning arrived soft and quiet. The hunter woke before the girl, sitting by the window with a blanket over his shoulders. Outside, the snow glimmered under pale sunlight. Everything seemed peaceful, but he knew peace was fragile. The girl stirred and rubbed her eyes. She looked at him, a small smile forming, though tiredness still lingered. "Did we sleep?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "You needed it." She nodded and hugged the blanket closer. "I don't want to go back," she whispered. He shook his head slowly. "No, you won't." He had spent the night thinking. After the chaos in town, after the arrests, the authorities had been clear. The girl was safe, and the hunter's actions were right. But people outside the forest might not see it that way. Some might think he had wronged her. Others might think he had done something illegal. He knew he had to be careful. By mid-morning, they walked back to town. This time the hunter was not just guiding the girl, he was prepared. He had papers, proof, and people he could trust. Each step toward town carried a mix of fear and relief. As they arrived, the streets felt different. People moved with normal purpose. But the hunter noticed glances, whispers. The town had heard of the events, but no one knew the full truth yet. They reached a building where officials were waiting. The girl stayed close to the hunter, holding his hand tightly. Her eyes darted around, taking in the faces and the uniforms. She was cautious but curious. An official smiled kindly at her. "You are safe now," the woman said. "No one will hurt you here." The girl nodded, but she didn't let go of the hunter's hand. The hunter answered questions. Explained the story from beginning to end. The officials listened carefully, nodding at points, taking notes. The man who had offered the money, along with his associates, were in custody. There was no doubt now about the danger the girl had been in. As the hours passed, the weight on the hunter's shoulders began to lift. The truth was out, and it was clear he had saved the girl from harm. What others thought didn't matter anymore. The girl grew more relaxed as the day continued. She spoke softly to the officials, answering questions about where she had been and how she had survived. The hunter watched her, amazed at her courage. Even in fear, she had managed to stay strong. By afternoon, the papers were signed. Plans were made for the girl's future. She would be placed in a safe home, but she would not be separated from the hunter immediately. The officials understood the bond between them, how much he had risked to protect her. Outside the building, the sun broke through clouds, streets glowed in warm light. The hunter walked with the girl beside him, the hand he held firm and reassuring. They stopped for a moment near a small fountain. The water trickled quietly, a soft reminder that life went on even after chaos. "You saved me," the girl said, looking up at him. The hunter shook his head. "No," he replied. "We saved each other." Her eyes widened. Yes," he said. "You were brave. You listened. Without that, none of this would have worked." She hugged him tightly, and he felt her small body tremble. It was a mix of relief, exhaustion, and emotion she couldn't put into words. He hugged her back, feeling something shift inside him too. A sense of hope, of life renewed. Weeks passed. Life slowly returned to a kind of normal. The girl adjusted to her safe home while still visiting the hunter often. The bond between them grew stronger each day. People who had once been suspicious began to see the truth. The hunter was no villain. He was a protector, a guardian, a hero in the quietest sense. One afternoon, as they walked through the edge of the forest, the hunter watched the girl play near the trees. Snowflakes fell gently on her hair. She laughed freely, the sound pure and light. A passerby paused, watching the scene. "Is she yours?" the person asked. The hunter smiled. "In every way that matters," he said. The girl ran back to him, holding a small pinnacone she had found. "Look," she shouted. "I found a treasure." He laughed softly. "Yes, you did." That evening, they returned to the cabin. It was warm, cozy, and alive again. The hunter built a fire, and they sat together, sharing a simple meal. No words were needed to express what they both felt. Safety, trust, and the quiet joy of being together. The news about the arrests and the girl's safety spread, but it no longer mattered to them. The world could say what it wanted. Their bond was unshakable. As night fell, the girl leaned against him, sleepy but content. "Thank you," she whispered. He kissed the top of her head gently. "Always," he replied. Outside, the forest was silent, except for the wind through the trees. The snow shimmered in moonlight, peaceful and beautiful. Inside the cabin, two lives that had almost been torn apart were finding their way back together. And for the hunter, for the first time in years, he felt something he thought he had lost forever. Hope. The sun rose slowly, spilling light over the snow-covered forest. The hunter stood outside the cabin, breathing in the crisp air. He watched the girl play near the trees, laughing freely as she kicked up snow with her boots. It was a sound that made his chest feel full in a way he had not felt in years. Life had changed so much in the past weeks. The danger had passed. The authorities had handled everything, and the people who had wanted to harm the girl were behind bars. Yet, the hunter knew that the real work was only beginning. It was about helping the girl build a life where she could truly be safe, happy, and free. He called her over. She ran, snowflakes sticking to her hair, eyes bright with excitement. "What is it?" she asked, curiosity in her voice. He knelt down to her level. "We're going to make a plan for your future. One where you don't have to be afraid of anyone." Her eyes widened. "Will I be with you?" He smiled. "Always. That's the plan." Over the next few weeks, they worked with social workers and legal guardians. Paperwork, discussions, and careful planning ensured that the girl would be safe and her bond with the hunter recognized. He watched quietly, making sure she had a voice in every decision. Her opinion mattered now, and she was beginning to understand that she could have won. The girl started school. She was shy at first, hiding behind the hunter's coat. But gradually, she began to speak to others. She laughed more freely, her steps lighter, her eyes brighter. The hunter watched from the doorway, proud and relieved. He had never imagined seeing her grow so quickly, learning to trust people again. One day, while walking back from school, the girl stopped and looked at him. "Do you think someday I could have a home with a garden? A real one?" He thought for a moment. "Yes, we'll make it happen." Her smile lit up the afternoon. She began to tell him about all the things she wanted: a swing, flowers, a place to draw and read. He listened, noting everything carefully. Even in such small things, he saw hope take root. Winter slowly gave way to spring. Snow melted, revealing patches of green, the promise of new life. The hunter and the girl worked together to clear the snow around the cabin, preparing it for planting flowers and vegetables. It was small, but it was theirs. For the first time, they could feel permanence. During these months, the hunter received quiet support from people in town. Some offered work, others helped with supplies. People who had once been indifferent began to see him as someone who had done the right thing, even when the world had misunderstood him. Slowly, respect and trust returned. The girl thrived in this environment. Her laughter filled the cabin. She asked endless questions, her curiosity boundless. The hunter answered each one patiently, sharing knowledge about the forest, the town, and life in general. He watched her grow with amazement. Each day brought a new discovery, a new spark in her eyes. One afternoon, the hunter received a letter from a distant relative. The letter was simple but significant. It offered financial support, understanding of the past, and a willingness to help build a secure life for the girl. The hunter read it to her. Her eyes sparkled as he explained that some people cared, that she was not alone anymore. Weeks turned into months. They planted a small garden, filled the cabin with books and drawings, and even managed to fix up the little wood stove so the cabin was warm and welcoming. Every corner held a piece of their efforts, a tangible sign of their growing life together. The girl began to talk openly about her past, slowly sharing memories she had buried. The hunter listened without judgment. He held her hand when tears came and wiped them away gently, always reassuring her that she was safe, that she was loved, and that she was not alone. Their trust had become unbreakable. As summer approached, the girl learned to swim in the nearby stream. The hunter stayed close, watching her take confident strokes, her laughter echoing through the trees. It was a simple joy, yet it carried the weight of all she had endured. Each moment of happiness was a small victory. One evening, as the sun set in brilliant oranges and pinks, the girl sat on the porch of the cabin, painting a picture of the forest. She looked up at the hunter. "Do you think maybe one day people will know we're safe and happy? That it's all real?" He nodded. "They will. But even if they don't, we know the truth. We made it through. We found each other. That's what matters most." Her eyes shone. "I'm glad you found me," she whispered. He smiled, feeling the warmth spread through his chest. "I'm glad I found you too." The world outside still existed with all its problems, but inside their little cabin, life was simple and beautiful. They cooked together, cleaned together, and tended the garden together. Every task was a bond, every shared moment a piece of joy. By the end of summer, Hunter realized that the girl was no longer just a child he had saved. She had become a partner in their small world, someone who brought light into the corners he had thought would always be dark. He could see her confidence grow, her laughter more frequent, her trust deeper, One clear morning, they walked together into the forest. Birds sang, and the air smelled of fresh earth. The hunter watched the girl run ahead, stopping to pick flowers, listening to the wind. He followed at a slow pace, taking in the peace that had taken so long to reach them. She ran back to him with a bouquet of wildflowers. "For you," she said proudly. He took them gently, inhaling the scent. "Thank you," he said softly. "They're beautiful." She smiled, then ran off again, free and happy. The hunter stayed where he was, watching her, feeling the fullness of life in a way he never thought possible. Years of hardship, fear, and loneliness had brought them to this moment. That evening, as the sky darkened and stars began to shine, they sat together by the fire. The girl leaned against him, sleepy and content. The hunter stared into the flames, reflecting on everything they had endured. He knew life would continue to challenge them. There would be hard days, tough decisions, and unexpected turns. But now, he also knew that they could face anything together. The bond they had formed, built on trust, courage, and love, would guide them. The girl yawned, curling up beside him. "Good night," she whispered. "Good night," he replied, placing a protective hand over her. Outside, the forest was still, the snow glimmering faintly under the moonlight. Inside the cabin, a sense of completion settled. A child once alone and afraid was now safe, loved, and full of life. A man once weary and broken had found purpose, hope, and a reason to keep going. Together, they faced the world with courage and trust. And in that simple, small cabin, they had created something extraordinary. A life rebuilt from fear into hope, from danger into safety, from loneliness into love. The story that had begun in darkness had ended in light. And though the future was unknown, they knew one truth: they would never face it alone. Not ever. Months passed, and the life that the hunter and the girl had slowly built became stronger and more vibrant with each passing day. Spring had fully arrived, and the snow had melted completely, leaving green fields and colorful wildflowers behind. Birds sang loudly, filling the air with sound, and the warm sunlight bathed the forest and cabin in gold. The hunter and the girl had grown used to the rhythm of their days, finding joy in the smallest tasks and simple moments together. The girl had become more confident than ever before. She ran through the forest freely, picking flowers, chasing butterflies, and exploring the streams and hills that surrounded the cabin. Her laughter was light and genuine, echoing through the trees and bringing warmth to the hunter's heart. He often watched her from a distance, sometimes sitting quietly by the cabin, other times helping her climb a steep hill or balance across a log over the stream. He noticed every small thing about her: the way her hair shone in the sun, the way her smile reached her eyes, and the energy that she carried everywhere she went. It was hard for him to believe that this same child had once been lost. Cold and terrified in the forest, the hunter had also changed. He felt lighter, as though the burden he had carried for years was finally lifting. Caring for the girl had given him a purpose beyond survival. Every day brought him closer to feeling truly alive again. He worked tirelessly, not only to ensure the girl's happiness and safety, but also to make their cabin a place of comfort and warmth. He repaired the roof, built new shelves for their few books and tools, and planted more flowers and vegetables in the garden they had started together. Each task was a labor of love, a small investment in the life they were building. One morning, the girl ran to him holding a bundle of wildflowers. "Look, I picked these for you," she said, her eyes shining with pride. She handed them over with both hands, and he smiled, taking them gently. "They're beautiful," he said. "Thank you," she beamed, and then ran off toward the stream, where she had been practicing skipping stones. The hunter watched her go, feeling a mixture of pride and wonder. He realized that life had become richer in ways he had never expected. He had found not only a child to protect, but a companion whose presence made each day brighter. Over the next weeks, the hunter began teaching the girl more than just survival skills. He taught her how to read maps, identify plants and animals, and understand the rhythm of nature. He showed her which berries were safe to eat, how to make a small fire without smoke, how to find fresh water even when it seemed scarce, The girl listened attentively, absorbing everything with fascination. She asked countless questions, sometimes simple, sometimes complex. And he answered each one patiently, taking pride in her curiosity and intelligence. Their bond deepened with each passing day. They shared stories in the evenings by the fire, the hunter recounting tales of his youth, and the girl telling him of the little adventures she imagined in the forest. At times they laughed until their sides hurt, and at other times they simply sat in quiet contentment, listening to the wind and the sounds of nature outside. It was a life full of simple joys, yet it felt extraordinary to them both. One afternoon, while working in the garden, the girl paused and looked at him. "Do you think we could build a small tree house?" she asked, excitement dancing in her eyes. "A place just for me?" The hunter chuckled, wiping sweat from his forehead. "A tree house, huh? I think we can manage that." The next few days were spent gathering wood, nails, and tools. They worked side by side, hammering, sawing, and measuring. It was hard work, but the girl's laughter and energy made every effort worthwhile. She learned to hold the hammer properly and to pass him the nails at just the right moment. Together, they created a small, sturdy tree house, high in a strong oak tree near the cabin. It had a little ladder, a tiny window, and enough space for a small mattress and her favorite books. The girl's joy when she climbed into the tree house for the first time was infectious. "It's perfect," she shouted down to the hunter. "Thank you. Thank you." He smiled, feeling a warmth in his heart that he had not experienced in years. "You did most of the work," he said. "I just helped a little." That night, they sat by the fire again. The girl snuggled close to him. She leaned her head against his shoulder and whispered, "I'm happy. I've never been this happy." He kissed the top of her head. "Neither have I," he admitted softly. The days continued to pass, filled with exploration, learning, and laughter. One day, the hunter received a letter from a distant relative who had heard of the girl's situation. The letter offered financial support and a willingness to assist in making their life more comfortable and secure. It was unexpected, but welcome news. With the support, he could repair the cabin further, buy better tools, and ensure the girl had everything she needed for school and play. The girl, of course, was thrilled by the news. "Does this mean we can get new books?" she asked eagerly. "And maybe paint the cabin?" "Yes," he said, laughing. All of that and more. They spent weeks painting the cabin, fixing small leaks, planting flowers, and making the place feel truly like home. Every corner reflected their hard work and their growing bond. Visitors came occasionally, people from town who had helped them in the past. They brought supplies, food, and sometimes simple gifts for the girl. Each visit reinforced that they were not alone, that a small community cared for them. Through it all, the hunter made sure the girl knew she was safe and loved. He never forced her to do anything, but always guided her gently, showing her the right choices and helping her understand the world. He encouraged her to dream big, to imagine a life filled with possibilities, and to believe that she deserved happiness. One summer evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest, the hunter and the girl sat on the porch. They watched the fireflies dance in the warm air. The girl leaned against him, her eyes reflecting the golden light. "I want to help others someday," she said softly, "like you helped me." The hunter smiled, feeling pride swell within him. "You will," he said, "and you'll do it even better than I could." She looked up at him, her eyes bright and full of hope. "Promise." "Promise," he said, squeezing her hand gently. As the years went by, the girl grew stronger, smarter, and more independent. She learned to read, write, and understand the world around her. She faced challenges with courage, guided by the lessons and love the hunter had given her. Their bond never wavered. The cabin remained a sanctuary, a place of warmth, safety, and endless possibility. The hunter often reflected on how much his life had changed. The child he had found alone in the forest had transformed his world completely. In saving her, he had found hope, purpose, and joy that he had thought were gone forever. Their journey had been difficult, filled with fear, danger, and uncertainty, but it had led to a life full of love, trust, and happiness. One quiet evening, as the girl prepared for bed, she looked at him and whispered, "Thank you for everything. For saving me, for teaching me, for being here." The hunter held her close and said, "I don't need thanks. You are my family now. And family sticks together no matter what."
Outside the forest was calm.
Stars twinkled in the clear night sky, and the cabin glowed softly from the fire inside. Within its walls, two lives intertwined, healed, and flourished. The girl had found safety and love, and the hunter had found purpose and companionship. Their story, which began in fear and danger, had transformed into one of hope, resilience, and extraordinary human connection. Each day brought new discoveries, laughter, and the quiet reassurance that they would never face life alone. The cabin, the forest, and their hearts had become a home, a place where happiness was built on trust, courage, and love. And so, they lived, learning, growing, and cherishing each moment, proving that even the darkest beginnings could lead to the most beautiful endings. The future remained unknown, but for the hunter and the girl, it was bright, promising, and filled with endless possibility.